HOA President's own brother-in-law. I'm Rex Thornfield, a retired property dispute attorney. Yesterday, those petty tyrants sold off my family's 1952 cattle empire for less than the price of brand new F-150. All of it over so-called emergency fees that never even existed. Tuesday, for 47 a.m. frost under my boots, diesel tractor coughing out blue smoke, cattle lowing for feed. I found their foreclosure, notice nailed to my gate like some bounty poster. My grandfather's calloused hands built this place from sagebrush and stubborn hope. And just like that, they declared war on the wrong bloodline. You want to know what happens when you illegally foreclose on a lawyer who spent 40 years eating HOAs for breakfast? By sundown, I'll be filing papers that have sheriffs taping notices to their mailboxes. Justice smells like fresh ink and revenge served ice cold. Ever had your HOA push you too far? Drop your location. Boots, Brooklyn, or Bali. The reckoning starts now. 3 months ago, I was just a grieving widower trying to heal on my family ranch. Now I'm about to show an entire HOA why you never mess with a property lawyer's legacy. The Barty Ranch has been Thornfield land since 1952, when my grandfather Ezra bought 3,500 acres of high desert for what today wouldn't even buy a decent used car. Back then, it was all sagebrush and rattlesnakes. But Ezra had vision and hands hardened by the Depression that could pull life out of dust. He spent 20 years building fences, digging wells, turning empty scrub into prime cattle country. My father took over in '78, expanded everything, added the modern barns you see now. I grew up riding these hills, learned to drive on dirt roads Ezra carved with a borrowed bulldozer. I met my wife Sarah at the county fair when she was judging livestock competitions. She said my prize bull had gentle eyes. My first warning sign she'd make me soft. We raised our kids here. Emma became a corporate lawyer in Denver. Jake joined the military and ended up somewhere in the Middle East. Sarah, I planned to retire here, build guest cabins, maybe watch grandkids learn to rope calves. Then cancer took her last spring. Suddenly, I was a 58-year-old widower in a ranch house that felt too big, too quiet. So I came back full-time, sold my city practice, and decided to heal where she was happiest. The plan was simple: run cattle, fix what breaks, maybe finally write that legal thriller I kept threatening for 20 years. Then Sunset Meadows Estates showed up. It started in 2019. Some California developer discovered our valley and decided it needed luxury living with mountain views. Suddenly, the eastern edge of my grazing land got sliced into half-acre lots selling for $300,000 each. McMansions sprouted like weeds after rain. I've got nothing against progress. I've represented enough developers to know how the game works. But these weren't locals building sensible homes. These were retirees from Phoenix and Vegas, cashing out and building monuments to themselves. Each house bigger than the last. Beige stucco, red tile roofs. Like Scottsdale had been dropped into cattle country by mistake. Then came Vivian Blackwood. First time I saw her, she was at my gate in a white linen blazer that probably cost more than most mortgages. Clipboard in hand, like it was a weapon. Blonde hair pulled into a severe bun. Nails the color of fresh blood. Smiles sharp enough to cut glass. Mr. Thornfield, I'm Vivian Blackwood, president of the Sunset Meadows HOA. We need to discuss your situation. My situation? As if my 70-year-old ranch was some zoning error waiting to be corrected. She smelled like expensive perfume trying to hide something rotten underneath. And she was right. It was rotten, just not on my side. I'm afraid there's been a boundary realignment in county records, she said, tapping her clipboard. Your property falls under HOA jurisdiction now. We'll need compliance with community standards. Behind her, my cattle were calling for feed, and Ezra's old tractor was coughing to life. Same sound that had marked every sunrise for 70 years. Ma'am, I said calmly, the way decades in court teach you to speak when you're measuring impact. This ranch predates your development by 70 years. I think you're mistaken. Her smile didn't move. It sharpened. Oh, Mr. Thornfield, I don't make mistakes. That was her first one. Within 48 hours, the letters started arriving. Certified mail. Thick stack. Like Christmas card from hell. Violation notices. Unauthorized agricultural equipment. They were talking about my grandfather's 1967 Ford tractor, the same machine that had worked this land since before their subdivision existed. Apparently, faded paint and honest rust violated aesthetic standards. Then came noise violations. My roosters were disturbing residents at 6 a.m., the same time they had always greeted sunrise. Next, unsightly storage, meaning hay bales, in a barn, on a ranch. Each letter carried a $500 daily fine threat. I started a file labeled HOA harassment. It grew faster than I could track. Years of legal work had taught me one thing. Corrupt people rely on others not documenting anything. But Vivian was just getting started. She began driving past my land twice a day with board members. Stop and take photos like they were collecting evidence at a crime scene. Cattle drinking water, irrigation lines, fence posts, everything cataloged. Then she started recruiting neighbors, not the old ranchers. They told her exactly where to go. But newer arrivals, people who wanted country living without actual country life, started listening. The rail bomb came during an emergency HOA meeting I wasn't invited to. Dale Morrison called me afterward, laughing like he'd witnessed a train wreck. "Rex, they just hit you with a $47,000 special assessment." "What for?" "Road damage, water runoff, noise mitigation." Basically, they made up a bill and called it law. That's when I knew this wasn't petty HOA nonsense anymore. It was organized fraud, and I had just become their problem. The next morning, I walked into their monthly meeting uninvited, carrying county maps and my grandfather's land patents. I spread everything across their table. "Show me the legal authority," I said. "Prove this HOA has jurisdiction over land that predates it by 70 years. Vivian went pale. "Boundary realignment is public record," she said weakly. "Then show it." I replied, "One survey, one valid filing, one real document." Silence. Board members suddenly became very interested in their shoes. She had nothing, and that's when I decided to stop reacting and start digging. What I found next changed everything. Within days, a thick envelope arrived from a law firm, Blackstone Morris & Associates. Fancy letterhead, gold embossing, the whole intimidation package. Cease and desist, trespassing livestock, immediate removal, $500 per animal per day. I read it once, set it down, and walked my fence line. Every post intact, every wire solid. My cattle exactly where they'd always been. That night, someone cut my fences. Professionally, clean wire cuts. Not kids, not animals. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. By sunrise, my cattle were on HOA land, and by 6 a.m., Vivian had already called police about dangerous livestock. The deputy looked at the fence cuts and sighed. "Sir, cattle don't use wire cutters." By noon, news crews were there. Vivian on camera in a cream blazer, talking about reckless ranching endangering families. I just kept repairing fences. Then something shifted. Vivian's nephew, Marcus Blackwood's son, showed up at my gate. Nervous. Guilty. He confessed everything. $500 cash to cut fences. Community service. They called it. That was the moment the puzzle snapped into place. Vivian wasn't just enforcing rules. She was manufacturing violations. And I had just become the only person who could prove it. By the time the foreclosure notice arrived, they had escalated to full war. $47,000 lien, 30-day foreclosure, 3 generations of Thornfields reduced to paperwork. But they made a mistake. They assumed I was alone. I wasn't. I called my daughter Emma. She was on a plane within hours. I called my old law partner Jasper. He laughed when I explained it. I called Dale, retired detective. Absolute nightmare for fraud cases. Within a week, my kitchen turned into a war room. And what we uncovered wasn't just HOA corruption. It was a full-scale property theft operation. Forged surveyor signatures. Dead men used as witnesses. Shell companies funneling money through fake development deals. And Vivian Blackwood at the center of it all. She wasn't just stealing my ranch. She was systematically stripping entire families of land and flipping it for millions. And I had become the case that would bring it all down. If you want, send the next section, and I'll continue the rewrite in the same format.